All right, let's watch it. There it is. They're ringing their ring-a-ding-ding-ding on Wall Street. New York Stock Exchange, corner of Broad and Wall. 4 o'clock, closed. We're open, though. Check it out. Strong day. 454 up in the Dow. S&P up 60. NASDAQ 231. That's a nice big move up. And again, we want to see that VIX going down because that means nervousness, anxiety, angst is coming down. That's always positive for the markets. Gold down 40, but still $3,335 an ounce. It's amazing. I don't like that one, though. The oil market up $64 a barrel. And this is all propelled, by the way, early morning, 8:30 this morning, a jobs report came out, ripped. It was higher than expected. So the market, the smart people are looking for 125,000 jobs created last month, actually 139,000. It beat expectations. Market immediately jumped 300 points. Market opened at 9:30. It held it and gained even more so. So very strong day on the market. The other thing that's going on, my crypto is up a little bit, about 104, about where it was most part of yesterday, $104,000, $105,000 per Bitcoin. Ethereum's still holding in there too. The biggest oxygen sucker in the news business right now is this feud between Musk and Trump. Will it subside? Will it go away? We can talk till we're blue in the face about what's really going on. Daily Mail put up a story saying that one of Trump's trusted advisor, Sergio Gore, is the reason for the split. Sergio, according to the Daily Mail, was upset that Elon Musk was pushing Jared Isaacson, the NASA, for Trump's choice to run NASA. Sergio didn't like it, according to the Daily Mail. Trump got into Trump's ear, and that's how the feud lit on fire. Megyn Kelly had a very interesting take a while ago about her feud with Trump. I just want to remind you about this. Listen.
And it was really crazy, so crazy, Sean, because I walked out. We agreed, like, we're good. And the last thing he said to me before I walked out of Trump Tower was, Megyn, it's not such a good thing if they're not talking about us. And I was like, oh my God, was this whole thing for show? Like, was he acting the whole time?
Wow.
To generate buzz?
I mean, I was there for that feud. I was front and center for that. A bird's eye view of that one. Seemed real at the time. Maybe it was, I don't know. Maybe, who knows? Who the heck knows? The best TV producer on the planet, bar none. Roger Ailes is dead. The best one? Donald Trump. All right, folks, I had a minute ago just a chance to talk with Alan Dershowitz, remember, Harvard emeritus professor for the better part of 50 years. Listen. All right, my next guest is a professor emeritus at Harvard University. He's been associated with Harvard for the better part of 50 years. He's been litigating and writing about law and policy for over 60 years. He's taught many of today's world leaders and is called the world's best-known lawyer. His newest book is called The Preventative State, The Challenge of Preventing Serious Harms While Preserving Essential Liberties. Let's welcome the one and the only Alan Dershowitz. Professor, really good to have you back. I want to jump right into this since you were at Harvard. You've been associated for more than half a century. Tell us what you think of President Trump signing the proclamation barring foreign students from going to Harvard, and we'll get into what the judges have done since. But go ahead. What are your thoughts of that?
Well, it's summarized in the title of a book which I'm working on now. It should be out sometime in the summer, called Trump to Harvard, Go Fund Yourself. And that's been the attitude, and Harvard's response has been, sue you. We'll see a lot of litigation, and Harvard will win in the lower courts and will lose in the Supreme Court. Ultimately, the federal government has the right to restrict funding. It shouldn't restrict funding for cancer research or medical research or other research, but it should restrict funding for politicalized propaganda parts and departments of universities, and Harvard has plenty of those. The Divinity School is a disgrace. The Public Health School is a sewer of anti-Semitism. The Carr Center for Human Rights is all about only human wrongs. So Trump is on the right side of trying to put pressure on Harvard, just the way the federal government put pressure on Southern segregated schools in the 1950s when they were harassing black students. Now there are students who are being harassed because of their Jewish faith. So he's on the right track, but he should have much more targeted defunding and targeted denial of visas rather than the kind of generalized denials that he's done.
So how do you do that, Professor? What do you mean targeting pulling back funding and targeting denial of visas from certain countries? Explain.
Well, you can't do it generally from countries. That's a beginning. You can say certain countries are not going to have their visas denied. I mean, nobody has caused any trouble from New Zealand. Nobody's caused any trouble from Canada. Really, nobody's caused any trouble from Israel. But there are countries, obviously Qatar is among them, and other countries, Syria, which have generated a lot of visa students who have caused problems. But it'd be much better if it was done individually. That is, yes, I think you can check when you're trying to come into the country. That's not a right. That's a privilege. I think you waive your privacy rights. And if you're trying to come into this country, the government has the right to inquire as to whether or not you hate America, whether or not you're coming here in order to be disruptive on college campuses. And they have the right to deny a visa on that ground. It's not going to be easy to do, but targeting offenders is really the right way to go.
So, help me out here. So I come from the business world, and it is since the day I stepped onto television, I've wanted. There are two things I've wanted to happen. I wanted Congress not to be shielded from litigation against their stock trading. They're allowed to do the things that you and I are not allowed to do, and it's called the stock. I wanted to remove that. But why in the world would a Harvard with $62 or $63 billion in endowment have some sort of tax haven status? Why isn't it time? Doesn't Harvard, aren't they playing with fire here? Because at some point Congress could say, you know what, we don't like the unfair treatment, the anti-Semitism that's going on, and we're going to pull that from you.
You're 100% right. Harvard is getting the worst legal advice, really malpractice legal advice from some of the left-wing law professors and left-wing lawyers. They're being told that they're going to win this, and they're just wrong. I mean, I'm much more of an expert at predicting what courts will do because I don't in any way allow my own preferences to influence my prediction. And my prediction is right on. Harvard will lose, and it will lose in the legislature. It will lose in the court of public opinion. Americans don't want to see tax exemptions for $53 billion endowed universities. And so they should be negotiating and settling this thing. And I have argued with them over and over again. Come and sit down and negotiate. I've even offered to play a role since I have a connection both to Trump. I was his lawyer. And I've been associated with Harvard now 60 years. I went there in 1964. So it's 61 years that I have a close association with Harvard. I know most of the faculty. I know the president. I know the deans. And they're making a terrible mistake by just fighting thoughtlessly. They're doing it because they're afraid that their left-wing students and faculty won't like if they are conciliatory in any way. But if Harvard wants to preserve its status as a great university, it really has to negotiate and resolve this. First of all, what the Trump administration is asking, a lot of it's correct. Let's get back to meritocracy. Harvard has no meritocracy. It has mediocrity. The standards have gone down so substantially since I started teaching at Harvard back 60 years ago, and they've gone down because of DEI, because they place an emphasis on racial diversity and on equity and on inclusion, which doesn't include certain groups. And I really do think that Harvard has suffered enormously. There's this concept called intersectionality, an absurd, unacademic, ahistorical concept which divides the world into two groups, the oppressed and the oppressors. And, you know, white Christian Americans, Jews, people who are not homosexual, they're the oppressors, and the oppressed are all the other people. You could be a billionaire from Qatar, but you're oppressed. You could be a billionaire gay person, but you're oppressed. You could be a hedge fund manager who's black, but you're oppressed. And you could be a Jew who lives on welfare, and you're an oppressor.
Well,
I mean,
it's
these
I think Harvard has already lost the sympathy of the American people. It's going to be hard for them to get it back. And remember, when Harvard spends money, makes money, and taxpayers from both sides of the political aisle are picking up the tab for whatever Harvard is not paying in taxes. People are ticked off. I want to get this in very quick. Right across Cambridge, Boston, very close to each other. For something in the water up there, Professor. Take a listen to Boston Mayor Michelle Wu having a problem with ICE agents hiding their identity from the bad thugs that are trying to kill them. Watch.
I don't know of any police department that routinely wears masks. We know that there are other groups that routinely wear masks. NSC 131 routinely wears masks.
Mayor, just to clarify, are you comparing ICE, you said, to NSC 131, the neo-Nazi group? Are you comparing them to a neo-Nazi group?
What I said is that Boston Police and no police department that I know of at the local level routinely wears masks.
Hey, Professor, there are a lot of people, CIA agents around the world, even agents we were riding with in Orlando cover their face because Tren de la Agua has facial recognition software where it can actually find out where those officers and agents live and their families. Thoughts to Michelle Wu?
Well, that's absurd. Of course, CIA agents, FBI agents always mask their identity. Even when television covers some things, they block out the identity of pictures for fear of retaliation, especially in a place like Boston where there could be retaliation. Look, I've had to redouble my own personal security following the killing of those two people in Washington, D.C., and the burning of 8 or 10 people who were protesting the holding of hostages. I've had to redouble my own security. And so I can just imagine how ICE agents would be concerned and frightened. She's part of the problem, not part of the solution. We're seeing a radicalization of cities. We're seeing an overt anti-Semite, anti-Zionist, anti-American run for mayor of New York and running second. We're seeing AOC, we're seeing the Squad, all of these people. It's terrible. Look who Harvard gave an honorary degree to last week. They gave 6 honorary degrees in the whole world. They picked out the 6 most honorable people, qualified people. One of them was a woman who advocates ending all cultural, academic, research association with Israel, totally boycotting every Jew who does research in Israel. And she gets an honorary doctorate. The Divinity School elects as class marshal somebody who was actually committed a crime, harassing, pushing, and shoving a Jewish student just days after October 7th. The law school gave a $65,000 scholarship to another person who was part of that same harassment. Harvard has a deep, deep, deep problem. It's a cultural problem. It not only tolerates anti-Semitism, but it teaches it in in the Divinity School. It teaches it in the public health school. It advocates it in the Carr Center for Human Rights. And so I really think that giving Harvard a real kick in the rear end is a desirable thing, but it shouldn't hurt research and it shouldn't hurt innocent people. So targeted defunding and targeted visa denials are the way to go.
Before we go, I'd like to hear about your book, The Preventative State, the challenge of preventing serious harms while preserving essential liberties. Tell us about it, sir.
Well, it's all about what we're talking about. And what do you think deportation is? It's preventive. What do you think denying student visas are? They're preventive. We live at a time when we're trying desperately to prevent serious harms, but we're doing it without a framework, and we're doing it in an ad hoc way. That's why we're having so much trouble with deportation, why the courts are intruding so much on that. And so in the preventive state, I present a framework, a jurisprudence for how to do better what we're doing already today, and that is engaging in actions that are preventive rather than purely reactive. It's a revolution that's happening around us, but we haven't recognized it, and we haven't created a legal system to constrain the excesses. What I worry about is if you give the state too much power to prevent, they could move toward extremism. On the other hand, if you don't give them enough power, then we'll see repetitions of 9/11, of October 7th, of Pearl Harbor. We could have prevented most of those things if we had done it the right way. So the preventive state provides a framework for engaging in preventing harms to ordinary people.
Very, very important book at the very exact right time. Alan Dershowitz, Professor, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right, folks, we'll be back 2.5 minutes. little shot right there, top of the monument in Washington, D.C. Looks like a little overcast, maybe get some rain, but that is pretty cool. There's the National Mall, as they say. My next guest, a friend of mine, former Fox News host, who's decided to throw his hat into the ring to become the next Republican California governor. Let's welcome Steve Hilton. Good to see you, my friend. Long time. We haven't chatted in quite a while. And I look up and you're running for governor of California. I was like, damn, that is a great idea. How you doing, Steve?
I'm great. I'm so happy to see you. Like you said, it's been a while. You're looking great. I'm very happy to be here. Got a little bit of a husky voice. I just said to you off the segment, I've been yelling at the Democrats a little too loudly. But I'm really enjoying taking the fight to them. You know, they're such a disaster. Everything's a disaster in California. And for so long, they've had no one really, aggressively holding them accountable, and that's what I'm going to do.
You are, yeah, that's great. In conservative values, I think the pendulum swings, Steve, and Ronald Reagan. Yeah. And then all of a sudden it became very liberal for a very long time, and maybe it's headed back. And the reason why I'm getting at this is because Donald Trump has shown people that you can be conservative and you can still in a blue state and still thrive. Here's the question: news of the day: Donald Trump, Elon Musk. The momentum was all in our corner, coming right at us. So we had wind in our sails. Does this disrupt that momentum at all, this fight between Musk and Trump?
No, I don't think it does at all. Because it's not, it's fun. It's a kind of gossip story. Of course, it's more than that when you get into some of the details, but not much more than that. The serious business of government goes on, and it's Donald Trump and his administration leading that. And so I don't think this is going to make any real difference. Excuse me, in the long term. I think it's just a story that, for obvious reasons, everyone likes to talk about. But I don't think, in a week, will we be talking about this? I don't think so.
I hope not. I hope not. And I hope in a week we talk about the phone call that they made to each other and smacked each other in the back and said, you know what? Let's move on. We're making the country great again.
Right.
You're running, assuming you get the nomination, you're going to run against Gavin Newsom, who can't really figure out if he's a hardcore liberal, a progressive, a centrist. I mean, he opened a podcast with his first two guests being Charlie Kirk and Steve Bannon, for God's sake. Where is this guy on the map? And do you see him as your primary opponent? Not primary opponent, but your main opponent.
He can't run again. He can't run again. He's termed out, actually, so it's not going to be him.
Got it.
But here's what America needs to know about Gavin Newsom. He is totally full of it. Don't listen to what he says. Watch what he does. I'll give you just a couple of examples. The one you mentioned with Charlie Kirk. So he has Charlie Kirk on his podcast, and Charlie brings up, quite rightly, the absolute obscenity of biological men and girls sports. And Gavin Newsom agrees with him. He said, it's deeply unfair. That's the quote, deeply unfair. A couple of weeks later, you have two Republican legislators in the state legislature put forward bills that would have stopped it in California. What did Gavin Newsom do? Did he support them? Did he get behind it? Nothing. He did nothing. A couple of weeks after that, he was asked, why not? Why didn't you support this? He said, we've been looking at it for 2 years, and I'm struggling with it, and we couldn't land anywhere. I looked at it for 2 days and realized, with the advice of some very smart lawyers, that the law that enables biological men and girls sports in California it violates the California Constitution in terms of safe schools and gender discrimination. You could file a suit tomorrow to make it illegal, and that's what I would do. Another example, Gavin Newsom, because of the blowback, pretended in his recent budget that he was reining in spending on, again, an offensive scandal, free healthcare for illegal immigrants. And he said, I'm doing something about it. It's terrible. He didn't. He actually increased the budget. And so over and over again, he wants to say one thing, but he does something completely different. And the whole country needs to understand that because he's going to be running for president.
He will be. Here's a big one, though. 26, the election is in 26, if I'm not mistaken, for governor.
Yes.
Kamala Harris, she's going to want to run for governor and then see if she can catapult herself up into the spotlight for president in 28.
100%.
So what's the plan against Kamala?
So I first of all, I'm really, really praying that she runs, because the way I always put it is, it's not going to be easy for me to win in California, and people say, Republican hasn't won for a long time. My argument is, everyone can see we need change in California. So the candidate for change is going to win, regardless of the label. And there's nobody less representative of change than Kamala Harris, who's been knocking around some California politics for like 2 decades without a single accomplishment. She's a total disaster. And also, I think if she runs for governor, you're going to have the whole country getting involved and saying, yeah, let's beat her again. So I think that that would be a gift. That's exactly what I think we're all hoping for. But honestly, whoever the Democrats put up, it's time for change in California. We had 15 years of one-party rule, and the result is the worst outcomes in the whole country. Highest taxes, highest poverty rate, highest unemployment, worst business climate, highest cost for gas, utility, everything. I mean, it's just a total disaster. We need a new direction. That's why, like this week, for example, I put forward a plan, just very simple, practical things that people are desperate for. My plan for $3 gas, which for the rest of the country seems normal. In California, we're heading towards $8 gas next year because of their insane climate policies. I'm putting forward a plan for $3 gas. That's the way we actually beat these people. Practical things that are going to make people's life better.
A couple of things, Steve. You know, if I'm not mistaken, again, I think California is the 4th largest economy in the world.
Yes.
Not in America, in the world. Yet it's a budget deficit. You have a budget deficit. I live in a state that has no state income tax, and we have a budget surplus. There's a lot of cleaning up to do on aisle 5 in California. Homelessness is so rampant there. Gavin Newsom said 20 years ago, I'm going to fix homelessness. And he spent tens of billions of dollars, and it's gotten worse. How does Steve Hilton fix homelessness and, I don't know, get fiscal responsibility back into the 4th largest economy in the world?
So here's the thing. They said 4th largest economy. Yes, it's a big economy, and I'm proud of that. I'm a Californian. I want us to have a big economy. I want us to be 3rd. And once I get rid of all the regulations and the taxes, we will be the 3rd biggest. But it's not enough to be big. It's got to be a good economy that works for people who live here. And all that wealth that's being created is going to a tiny, tiny number of people at the top, all these tech monopolies that bring in huge amounts of money, but they don't create very many jobs. That's why we have 4th biggest economy, but the highest unemployment in America at the same time. And so a key part of it is reining in this budget, because the budget of the state of California has doubled in the last 10 years. This massive, bloated, nanny state bureaucracy. Just to give you one example, just now, in the recent budget, Gavin Newsom, even with a deficit, where he had to borrow money and take from the reserves, he increased spending on the state bureaucracy by 18%, another $7 billion. That is basically just a payoff to his donors, the government unions. So we can cut back all of that. It's totally ridiculous. On homelessness, you've got to just enforce the law. People should not, it's illegal to sleep on the streets. You've got to enforce that, get them into treatment and mental health care. They've been doing none of that.
What does Steve Hilton do with the literally millions of illegals that are walking, maybe even voting in California, but certainly driving?
Well, it's a massive part of all the problems, because you've got we have the worst school results, right? You've got massive pressure on the schools, on housing, all these things. And of course, the good news is at least it's not getting worse, because the president and his team, Tom Homan, Kristi Noem, and the whole team, Pete Hegseth, shut down the border. So it's not getting worse. And so that's a federal matter. The enforcement of immigration law, deportation and so on, that is a federal law. But what we can do is stop the insanity here in California of the sanctuary state law and the sanctuary city laws. You've got the sanctuary state law they passed in 2017, the last time around. But this time you've got cities like San Diego going even further. They've passed an ordinance locally that is even more insane, like totally protecting violent criminals from any kind of interaction with federal immigration. And they're taking taxpayer money from San Diego taxpayers, and they're using it to fund legal services for illegal immigrants with deportation notices. I mean, it's such an unbelievable insult to every hardworking person. So all of that stuff you can change in California.
Very quickly, Steve, about a minute or so. How can California do the Texas-Florida model, drop your state income? I mean, it costs you hundreds of billions of dollars, but can you do that with the theory being you're bringing a lot of economic activity back. Elon Musk left California for Texas.
Exactly.
Good example.
So many. Look, my plan that I've already put out, I think, you can't do it all in one go. So for the first step in my plan is to help the people who've been hurt the most by all this insane Democrat policy. That's the working class people of California. So step number one is to eliminate state income tax for everyone earning below 100,000. Now, you may say 100,000 is quite a lot. Not in California. It doesn't get you very far. So zero state income tax up to 100,000. Over 100,000, I want to bring it down to a flat tax of 7.5%. That reduces the income to the state of 18.5%, which sounds like a lot, but it just takes us back to what it was before the pandemic. And there's so much bloat and corruption and cronyism in the state budget. So that's a starting point. But I totally agree with you. I mean, all these states that the California liberals look down their noses at, Florida and Texas, on every measure, they're doing better than California. On education, you've got states like Louisiana and Mississippi beating California because it's so badly run here. That's what we got to change. That's why, but we can do it pretty quickly. And the theme of my campaign is golden again. Let's make California the golden state, truly golden again. That's why I'm running.
Make MCGA, make California golden again.
Yes,
There's got to be an acronym in there somewhere. Steve, really good to talk to you again, my friend. Go get him. We'll get you back as things progress. Good luck, my friend.
Thanks, man. See you soon. Cheers.
All right, folks, don't forget, tune in tomorrow, 4 p.m. to watch the Rio Reset, where I, along with the great folks, the specialists in gold at Birch Gold Group, we discuss the importance of gold protecting your assets in this major event that could happen mid-July in Rio with the BRICS countries and Iran who want to get involved, undermining the U.S. dollar. We'll be back 2.5 minutes. Hey, Ben, you been to Lake Tahoe, Nevada?
I have not. It looks gorgeous.
That's beautiful. I've never been there either. It looks just wonderful. If it's not Las Vegas, Nevada, I haven't been there, sorry to say. All right, look who else. Move over, Jake Tapper. Look who else is suddenly selling a book.
Hi, I'm Corinne Jean-Pierre, and I am the author of a new book that's coming out this fall called Independent. It's coming out on October 21st, so please do grab it.
Yeah, I'm not grabbing anything. That ain't happening. Corinne Jean-Pierre, sorry about having to bring this to you folks, but we had to talk about it. Corinne Jean-Pierre thinks we give a crap that she's left the Democrat Party, as if that changes how disgusting and awful she is and she was. But she's left the party, lucky them, just in time to sell a book. Ain't that something, right, Jake Tapper? But guess what? Looks like they didn't want her to begin with. They're stomping all over her in her book because she was the worst White House press secretary that ever lived, bar none, and it's not even close. Even The View, they like everything about Democrats and her. Well, they didn't like her. They didn't want her. No one wanted her. It all comes back to one thing. KJP is treasonous. She doesn't deserve a lick of book sales. She shouldn't have one book. But what she does deserve is a swift kick to the butt right after a lengthy hearing about what she knew and when she knew it. So KJP has quit the Democrat Party, and the reviews are in. Quoting today, Corinne lost the only constituency that ever supported her. Party line Democrat, says a former White House comms official under their White House. Quote, everyone thinks this is a grift, says another former Biden official. Emphasis on Biden. LOL, says a former colleague. Well, here's my review. Who cares? She's a liar and a twit. But Corinne, well, she's got a book to sell. So Corinne said, I'll have what Jake's having. Follow the money, baby. And one of the masters of misinformation wants you to know why she wrote this sure to be dumbass book.
In an era of misinformation, disinformation, the regressiveness of social policy, what we're seeing currently right now, what I have decided to do, and I really have thought long and hard about this, is to follow my own compass.
Oh, so that's interesting. A compass. Did you follow your own compass when you lied every single day to the American people from the podium, in the briefing room? And she did so from day one, by the way. Jen Psaki, circle back Psaki, passed the baton to Corinne Jean-Pierre, who would quickly surpass Psaki as the worst press secretary of all time.
As you all know, she will be the first Black woman, the first out LGBTQ plus person to serve in this role, which is amazing because representation matters.
Well, that's kind of interesting because I don't know about you, but I thought what matters, especially in a job important as that, is earning and deserving the job based on qualifications. I don't know, maybe even experience, but I digress. And so in May of 2022, when White House DEI hire Karine Jean-Pierre, they just said it themselves, stepped in as White House press secretary, she made sure we knew she was a DEI hire.
I am obviously acutely aware that my presence at this podium represents a few firsts. I am a Black, gay, immigrant woman, the first of all three of those to hold this position.
Whoa, that's some resume there. What a resounding achievement there, KJP. Except, what did she do with her DEI handout? She proved why DEI doesn't work. In fact, KJP is a poster child, a living embodiment of the failing policies that are diversity, equity, and inclusion.
He's been there. He's been to the border. And since he took office,
when did he go to the border?
The president has done the work to deal with what we're seeing at the border since day one. When you look at inflation, when we look at where we are economically, and we are stronger economically than we have been in history. What we saw on January 6th was the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War.
Well, that's pretty bad, but what's worse is KJP held the Biden megaphone for the very worst part of his fall into dementia. Even if we argue for argument's sake that the most drastic decline happened from 2022 on, then Karine has zero excuses whatsoever. But we all know it's not true. We all know that he was weekend at Bernie's before he even got into the White House. And I've spent several shows talking about what a disgusting grifter Jake Tapper has become. There's absolutely no excuse what Jake did as a prominent member of the mainstream media. He knowingly covered up Joe Biden's mental state decline, and he did it with condescending, slimy gusto. And he's mostly unapologetic about it, but just apologetic enough to sell a few books. It's obvious and pathetic. And by the way, he is. He's #1 on the New York Times bestseller list. Mission accomplished, Jake. But at least Jake wasn't a part of the Biden administration. At least when he lied to us, we the American taxpayers, we didn't pay his salary. But Karine Jean-Pierre, she was the freaking face and mouthpiece of it all. We paid her salary. We were supposed to get the truth out of her, right? Well, she stood up there with her stupid, useless notebook of nothing and belittled every single American on a daily basis. She was the voice for Joe Biden, the mouthpiece for Joe Biden. She was a voice and the mouthpiece for the whole damn lying administration. And now she wants to sell us a book. Now she's independent because no one wants her. And now she's divulging secrets and insider information. That book is her testimony. Whatever comes out in that book that she details what she witnessed should be entered into account as her affidavit, official proof of her treason. I don't know, maybe send it to her lawyer and then sue her. You don't get to get relief because you switch parties, Karine. And you don't, by the way, Jake, get to get relief because you wrote a book about how stupid you were. She's that dumb. She might think that that's all this is about, to absolve herself. No, it's not. She's at the top of the list of cover-up perpetrators. She's at the very tip top of that list of those who must answer for covering up the fact that the man running the world was operating at maybe 5%. She saw it. She knew it. She's responsible. Screw the book. This is the queen of what? Cheap fakes.
And I think you all have called this the cheap fakes video, and that's exactly what they are. They are cheap fakes video. They are done in bad faith, and some of your news organization have been very clear, have stressed that these the right-wing critics of the president have a credibility problem.
Says the walking epitome of credibility problem. Are you kidding me? As late as last July, right before he dropped out of the race and after Biden failed miserably in the infamous debate against President Trump, this Democrat deep state operative insisted he was sharp as a tack.
He is as sharp as ever, as I have known him to be in my engagement, in my experience with him.
No. You want to pretend to leave the party for a dumb book. Go right ahead. But this does not in any way, shape, or form relieve you of treasonous liar. You're not off the hook. No one wants her. Not in her party, not in The View. Nobody wants her. This was a last resort, last-ditch effort to save herself and her career. And by the way, in case you thought that the leftist machine had finally accepted facts, or if you thought that the fact that CNN star anchor wrote an entire book about Biden's mental unfitness changed anything over there, it didn't change a damn thing. Cognitive decline, in quotes, really. Cognitive decline. Like it's an opinion. No, it's not an opinion. It's fact. They learned nothing. They just wanted to go away. Or worse, make money off of their ridiculous behaviors and their lies. But we haven't forgotten, and we won't. It's treason, and it was extremely dangerous to America. You want to be a Democrat, Corinne, an independent, whatever. None of it matters. In fact, we've seen over and over again in Washington that even though you're a so-called Republican, you can still be a Republican with the quotes and in name only. We have a bunch of them. I mean, you're a progressive. You're a Pino. Progressive in name only, whatever. In fact, given what we've seen in the swamp over the last 10 years, given moments like this one with Corinne changing parties in an attempt to fill her coffers, I'm going to suggest that those titles no longer mean anything. The only party Corinne Jean-Pierre belongs to is the guilty party. How about that? Don't buy Corinne's book. Don't buy Corinne's book. She's one of the worst ever, period. We'll be back, 2.5 minutes. Oops, 2.5 minutes. The Arch, Ben to St. Louis. By the way, one of the most beautiful baseball stadiums in all of Major League Baseball, the Cardinals, St. Louis Cardinals. What a gorgeous, I think it's Anheuser-Busch Stadium, wonderful place. All right, folks, yesterday we saw the rapid escalation of the feud between Trump and Musk. Of course, this little disagreement quickly blossomed into everything the Democrats have dreamed of. Here's AOC gloating and loathing and smiling and just, I don't know, eating it all up, which is exactly what is the most screwed up thing of this whole thing. Watch.
Any quick reaction on what's going on with Elon Musk and President Trump on Twitter right now?
Oh man, the girls are fighting, aren't they? You know, I would say that this was something that was a long time coming, where we've been seeing that these two huge egos were not long for being together in this world as friends. And so I think this breakup we've been seeing a long time coming, but we'll see what the impacts are of it legislatively.
All right, Ben, get on the Voice of God for a second. Voice of God, Ben.
What's going on?
You're a young guy. Would you vote for president ever?
Probably not. I'd put my money in the
president of the nightclub, perhaps, but not the United States. Mike Johnson was asked about Elon's comments, specifically his harsh critique of Trump's big, beautiful bill. Here's what the House Speaker had to say.
He said that you've changed. He criticized
Elon said I've changed?
He said,
No.
Yeah, you used to be concerned about the deficit. You no longer.
I responded to that. I'm the same guy that's always been a deficit hawk, and now I'm the Speaker of the House, and I'm working on a multi-step plan to reverse the fiscal insanity that has haunted our country. We're going to get back to fiscal responsibility, and this is the first step of many. It's a multi-step process. We have to get the big, beautiful bill done. It's a historic step forward. And I know, right? I know. And, I mean, look, we're going to say...
He said that he deserves credit for winning the House. And do you give him credit for that?
As somebody who traveled nonstop last year to win the House majority, I don't think any one person deserves credit. But if there is one person, it's Donald J. Trump.
Okay? He's in a tough place. He wants to see... he wants to get that bill through because he wants to do what Trump has promised. And it's really on him. He got it through the House. It's over in the Senate. So in a bit of a pickle for Speaker Johnson. The hypocrites over at CNN, however, this time led by Van Jones, immediately started urging Trump to prosecute Elon Musk's Doge employees. Listen to this twisted plan, which would ultimately lead to a hell of a lot more chaos.
Elon's correct. He's good at math. But the other piece of it is those Doge employees, the people that Axelrod was just talking about, are very dangerous. If Donald Trump is smart, the first thing he's going to do is fire, investigate, and prosecute all of Elon's people who are all throughout government with their laptops downloading data right now.
look, Elon put together Department of Government Efficiency. It's a great idea. It's a great idea. Cut the waste, fraud, and abuse in our government, the bloat in our government. It's a great, Doge ain't going anywhere, Van Jones. Sorry to tell this to you. You guys hate the Doge employees because they're cutting the waste, fraud, and abuse that Democrats love. They live on that. They thrive on that. They are elected on that. It's not going anywhere. Forget it. Elon Musk is bowing out. Doge is here to stay. I love it. Slick Willie Clinton went on The View. He's losing it too. Went on The View and said he's still holding out hope that his wife will one day be president of these United States. Listen.
Speaking of first gentleman, almost. How'd that work out?
I wanted the job.
And we wanted you to have it.
And it's the only political job I ever wanted that I didn't get.
Oh, wow.
Well, but there's still time. Nothing is off the table. That's what I say.
Right. Say it ain't so, President Hillary Clinton. Oh, my God. I would leave the country. I really would. One of Pennsylvania's Democrat Congresswoman, Madeleine Dean, wants everyone to forget about old Joe's flurry of unethical last-minute pardons. Remember, now we know they're auto pen pardons, with the exception of one. His son. In fact, she says that there's no point in investigating any of these things. I wonder why. Listen.
I'm laughing because it's absolutely laughable. He's got to get over it. The man won. Mr. Biden is not president. He uses AutoPen. He also uses his own EKG Sharpie. Maybe we need to investigate that. It's absolutely laughable. There are investigations that need to take place, and that is not
Sorry,
welcome.
Congresswoman, here's the issue. Who was using the AutoPen? We hear Elizabeth Warren, was somehow involved in getting people pardoned because of the use of the AutoPen, where Joe is too gone to know who he was pardoning himself. 8,300 pardons. Think about that. 8,300. One of them he signed. One. The rest were AutoPen. We got to know, were there pay to play? Did people buy pardons from staffers? We have no idea. Yes, we have to investigate the AutoPen. Could be one of the biggest corruption exposures in the history of the country. Earlier this week, Chucky Schumer said basically that we're all going to die because of Trump's spending bill. Statement was mind-blowing then because of how stupid Schumer is willing to look himself. By the way, he doubled down on it. Listen.
You know what happens when people lose their health care, when they can't afford it? People die. But what do Republicans have to say about that? Well, the junior senator from Iowa said this, well, we're all going to die. That quote tells you everything you need to know about this plan. Callous, clueless, careless. That's right. This plan is callous, clueless, and careless. But that's the Republican Party for you these days. They don't get it. Or more likely, they don't care, just so long as billionaires can pay less in taxes. Republicans should forget calling this gargoyle of a bill their big, beautiful bill. They might as well call it the We're All Going to Die Act.
That's her new line. We're all going to die. It's a spending bill, Chuck. Relax. Just in, Axios is reporting wrongly deported Kilmar Abrego Garcia is returning to the United States, per Axios and a couple of my friends who are keeping us up to speed as we're live on television right now. Thank you, by the way. Michelle Wu, the mayor of Boston, just called ICE officers neo-Nazis. I'm not kidding you. Working men and women who risk their lives every day to deal with the violent, illegal aliens that get to hang out in America for free. Apparently, the neo-Nazis are just doing their job, but Michelle Wu doesn't like it.
I don't know of any police department that routinely wears masks. We know that there are other groups that routinely wear masks. NSC 131 routinely wears masks.
Mayor, just to clarify, are you comparing ICE, you said, to NSC 131, the neo-Nazi group? Are you comparing them to a neo-Nazi group?
What I said is that Boston Police and no police department that I know of at the local level routinely wears masks.
You can't have people in those positions exposing their identities. We were riding with Tren de la Agua 2 weeks ago. The ICE officers, FBI told us, HSI, Rangers, Florida Highway Patrol, all were wearing masks because TDA, Tren de la Agua, has facial recognition software. They can just take a picture of you and tell the bosses where your family lives. Michelle Wu, post your home address. How about you post your home address and all your family and your cousins? How about that, Michelle Wu? We'll be back in 2.5 minutes.
The world is changing faster than anyone imagined. BRICS nations are plotting a new financial order.
BRICS is holding their 2025 summit July 6th and 7th in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. This year's summit could be a game changer that might potentially redraw the global economic map and trigger the fall of Western-led institutions like the IMF, World Bank, and the U.S. dollar itself.
This group of countries has become now the only legitimate geopolitical economic rival to the West.
Kills everything the dollar represents. America's debt is quickly approaching $40 trillion.
The bigger our budget deficits, the larger our debt will be, and ultimately the less attractive the dollar will be to foreign investors.
And now the threat is greater than ever. China is aggressively working to dethrone the U.S. dollar. They're striking deals in their own currency, building alliances with Russia and others.
The dollar's position as global reserve currency is under threat.
And quickly undermining the system that keeps the dollar strong.
It's crazy because the dollar has had a weaker and weaker demise.
If the dollar loses its global status, your retirement accounts, your savings, and the value of your paycheck could vanish overnight. The cost of living would skyrocket. Loans would dry up. The economy would crash.
The country will go bankrupt. We need to do what central banks around the world are doing, and that is hedging our retirements and making sure that we have some gold in there.
So this is very important. That's a very important special you need to watch. Just look at what's going on in the gold market right now. It's $3,333. We're literally $33.33 right now. It's up 100% in 18 months. 100%. You know why? People are nervous about what's going to go on in that Rio reset. If the BRICS countries get their way, they're going to get their way. If they get it now, the dollar falls even more dramatically. The dollar's been falling over the last few years. If they get what they want to remove the U.S. currency, the U.S. dollar, as the reserve currency. Right now, every oil barrel and every ounce of gold, every bushel of corn that's traded globally is traded with U.S. dollars. So companies who want to trade these commodities and or doing business with the United States companies, they have to go to their local banks and get dollars from the Bank of France or the Bank of England or the Bank of Japan. They have to buy dollars to trade with U.S. corporations. It's a global. It's been that way since the beginning of time, international trade. If these countries get what they want, they'll remove the dollar as their global currency. They'll come with a basket of their own currencies or whatever, but the demand for the dollar will sink. That means the value of your dollar will sink. That means every dollar you have in savings becomes worth less and less and less. The only way to protect it, gold, that special is important. You got to watch it. Tomorrow, Saturday, 4 p.m. We'll probably play it a few more times, but a very, very important special. Take an hour of your time and maybe protect your life and your savings and your livelihood and your retirement going forward for who knows how long. It's going to happen, folks. I'm not sure it's going to happen in July, but it's going to happen, and we have to be prepared for it. Every ounce I've ever bought, I still own, sitting in my safe deposit box in my home. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. We're back with you on Monday.